why own voices are important. And I'm not saying that this book has to be written by a black person, but when you have stereotypical characters in your book, there was a moment in the book where Patricia and her friends go to visit a woman that lives around predominantly black people, and they are calling her all kind of bitches, and they look like quote unquote thugs, and a white person is writing it. It comes across as a stereotype, especially
Yes.
if you are not a historian or a professor or something that has anything to do with African American history. If you're just a white man out here writing books because, oh, that's how they talk on The Wire or whatever, like, no, it comes across as offensive. And it was offensive.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times, and that was one of them.
Welcome to the Novel Universe with your hostesses Ashley and Dawn. We rate and review the newest and most buzzworthy books. We are true book club girls who don't always agree but do enjoy a good book discussion. I'm Ashley, the fantasy architect.
And I'm Dawn, the criticizer of books.
Grab your favorite beverage and come and enjoy our universe.
I'm good.
Okay. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Novel Universe with your hosts Dawn and Ashley. And today, what's the name of the book? We will be talking about The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This was published a couple of years ago, but it was highly recommended from a good friend of Ashley and mine, so that's why we are doing this one. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you are not new, welcome back. And how we do things is we do a spoiler-free edition first, where we talk about what we didn't like and what we liked, and then we will let you know when we go into our spoiler edition so that you will not be spoiled. You can follow us on Instagram at the Novel Universe Pod. I never know these things. Or YouTube.
Every time.
I know. Or YouTube, where there are more book reviews and vlogging and other fun shenanigans. All right, Ashley, are you ready?
Ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right, first let me go over the overview of Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Patricia Campbell had always planned for a big life, but after giving up her career as a nurse to marry an ambitious doctor and become a mother, Patricia's life has never felt smaller. The days are long, her kids are ungrateful, and her husband is distant, and her to-do list is never really done. The one thing she has to look forward to is her book club, a group of Charleston mothers united only by their love for true crime and suspense. Suspenseful. Oh my god, I can't talk. Suspense fiction. I can't say that word. In these meetings, they're most likely to discuss the FBI's recent siege. I don't care about this. Let me skip to this. Okay. When an artistic and sensitive stranger moves into the neighborhood, the book club's meetings turn into speculation about the newcomer. This is why Ashley usually does this. Patricia is initially attracted to him, but when some local children go missing, she starts to suspect the newcomer is involved. She begins her own investigation, assuming he's a Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy. What she uncovers is far more terrifying, and soon she and her book club are the only people standing between the monster they've invited into their homes and their unsuspecting community. That was a lot. Good gracious. All right.
Little bit, Ted Bundy, little bit.
All right, Ashley, what did you give this book? Ashley and I do not talk about the books that we read before the podcast. I have no idea what she's going to rate it. She doesn't know what I'm going to rate it. So here's the fun part.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I have 2 ratings.
2 ratings, okay.
2. And here is why.
Okay.
1. This is not a book for Ashley.
Oh, okay.
This is not a book for me. I personally, with my tastes and stuff like that, like a 3.
Okay.
And that's being a little generous in some areas as I went to dissect this book. However, if you love horror and creepy, cringy stuff, 5 stars, 100%. 100%.
So is that why?
Is
that why it wasn't for you, because of the gore?
There was a few other things that I'll talk about that I also had some, like, and they were, like, I'll just say, they were a little bit of red flags while I was, like, reading, and I was like, nope, nope, nope.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can talk about it. But what about you? What did you rate this book?
All right. So I gave this book a 1.5 because it is a piece of shit. It is problematic.
Okay.
And curse you, Alyssa, for recommending this book. Curse you. And the horse you rode in on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this rating for me, I saw what she rated it, and I was like, okay. And then I'm reading it, and I'm like,
She doesn't like. She doesn't. She only does the star rating on Goodreads. She doesn't usually write a review, so I never know why she rates things
I
a
want to
certain
know
way.
why.
And I've told her this. I was like,
I know.
Alyssa, you need to start writing something, a sentence, some things that I know. So I have no idea why she liked this book. But she gonna hear it next time I see her.
My personal rating was between a 2 and a 3. I'm being generous with the 3. I feel like once I talk about stuff, I think I'm being generous.
All right. All right, well, let's get into our dislikes. What's your first dislike?
All right, let me pull my list out. Okay. Number 1 for me. All of these, okay, so like these 5 women, right, are a part of this like amazing book club where they all get together and they read, in my opinion, pretty like not Southern Belle reads, right? Like they're reading like murder mysteries, super like dark things. Okay, I'm thinking of like they're just gonna go, read Where the Wild Things Are or whatever. Crawdad saying whatever. I don't know, but this was like some of the stuff that they were reading. I was a little like, okay. But my main issue, not main issue, but one of them is that like the husbands of these wives are awful. They are awful, awful, awful men. 100% awful. Awful.
Well, that's intentional.
I will talk about more later.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
It's intentional, though.
It is intentional. However, it's awful because it's also like borderline. Like, what are you trying to convey here? Are you trying to convey that like these women are just dumb? Like flat out, like are all women dumb? They just gonna go home and vacuum the curtains? That's what we worry about at home? From a married woman standpoint, I'm telling you right now, I had a problem with it. I was like, I don't go home and thinking about vacuuming the pleats in my curtain. Like, no.
And that leads me to Dawn's main reason why I hated this book, and you basically said it without saying it, is that this book has some very strong feminist themes and racial inequity themes. However,
yes,
it is written by a white man.
Yes.
That is the problem. So,
yes,
he's not saying anything new or interesting about feminism because he is a man. So only thing he's saying is what he's heard or read or what he thinks is oppressive for women or what maybe a friend or family has said to him. But beyond Patricia finally realizing that no man is going to help her, that she has to help herself, beyond that basic theme, he is not introducing anything new or evocative or anything. I don't want to hear a man's opinion about being a woman. I don't want to hear that.
Right. And I think that was like I feel like that's the number 1 issue in this book, and I feel like some people just don't see it because this book is such a very quick read. Like, you'll fly right through it, and you can miss these like little moments where it's like, oh honey, that's not okay. That keeps happening. Like, that's not just like setting the characteristics of these women. Like, it's borderline like misogynistic.
Oh, it's totally misogynistic. It is. There's no border
You know?
here. It's on it. It's over the border. We are in
There's no
Mexico.
border.
We are in
Yeah,
Canada.
so it's like this. So that was my number one problem is like anytime these women had any problem, they would go and talk to their so-called men, husbands that are, breadwinners in the family. Cool beans, that's fine. This is set back in the 80s, early 90s. Like, this is like people are still following along in that cycle where women still stayed at home, like with their kids, like if they were able to, and then others were not, whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. But like when your man comes home, I felt like I was watching a Dream of Jeannie episode where like he just doesn't care. Like Darren just doesn't care. Like he's got his own agenda. Thank you for making dinner, or why are my socks not pressed, or whatever. That's what it felt like for me, and I had a problem with it because I could see some strength in a lot of these women in various areas, but they were so oppressed by their husbands, and they're told to like shut it, keep it together. You're making us look bad. And I was like, nope.
And
Ultimately,
ultimately, that's not a problem because it is a theme. And when you have a book that has feminist themes and you have a woman or a group of women who are dealing with shitty men, then you're expecting them to grow, which this character does grow. And that's not my problem with the book. My problem with the book is that A, it's written by a man, and B, he's not saying anything new or different or special. I would still be mad if this was written by a woman because she's not saying anything new or different or special. Oh, my husband beats me because I didn't vacuum the drapes. Oh, my husband's gaslighting me. Okay, and what? We already know this. We know all of these things. What else do you have to say about it? But because it's written by a man, it makes it worse because it's pandering. He knows his audience is women. And so he's just like pandering. It's just like, oh, let me write these poor oppressed women because I know the women are going to be reading this, and maybe I can teach them a lesson about how to gather together and fight to overcome. Like, I don't need no man telling me that. Now maybe I'm reading a little bit too into it, but I don't need a man telling me that.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, can you look past these moments in this book where that's happening and just read the horror story?
It's too
and
much.
I think that there's two different types of us readers. There's those that are like there for the horror and the grossness, and you just kind of bypass everything. And there's the other ones of us that are like, oh, no. I don't care about this weird alien vampire thing. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's too much in your face for you to ignore it. Because I can sometimes ignore stuff, but it's a major theme in this book. And he's doing nothing with it. If you're going to put a theme as strong as feminism, you have to do something with it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And he could have even said something from a male point of view. And he didn't even do that. Like, why do these men treat these women like that? It's like there's this one moment in the book where Patricia has made dinner for her family. Her husband is eating the ice cream and he can't even be bothered to put the dish in the sink. He has to make her do it. Why? Say something. You're a man. Why do men behave that way? He could have done that way. He could have said something about that. No. It's all about how women feel and think, which you do not know because you are not a woman.
Yep, I agree, because there was also a moment where, like, her husband, what's his name? Patricia's husband. I'm just going to call him Mr. Campbell. There's a moment where Mr. Campbell has a moment where he can rectify himself, and they had, like, this, like, intervention thing with them, addressing the new person in town and whatever, and you see him like go like, okay, like explain it to me, and he gives her that space to do that, but then it's like cut short is the moment she starts speaking, and it's poo-poo to him, like completely ridiculous, he instantly sides with his friends, and then that's it. There's no more interaction between them after. And it's like
there were moments where he had an opportunity to say something and he didn't. So that's one. And
right.
there's another part where Patricia is like, hey, something's wrong. This guy is a problem. We need to go check into it. And she's talking to the police. Her husband comes in and it's like, oh, no, I believe my wife. But as soon as he gets with his friends, he's like, you're crazy. Why did he defend her in front of other people, in front of the police, and then make her seem like a crazy person in front of his friends? Say something about it. Don't just put that out there and not do something with it. And that's the difference between a good book and a great book. A great book is going to say something about that. A good book or a not so good book isn't. And that is a problem.
Yeah, and the thing is that he totally could have done that. He totally could have added it in, like, why that was a thing, and this would have been,
yeah.
Okay, I can overlook the, like, crazy horror because it's a good written book, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you know, but yeah, so my next problem with the book is, like, there's a lot of racism in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Why the vampire gotta be white? I'm white, but I was like, why is he gotta be white?
Well, he's white because otherwise he wouldn't be able to be in that neighborhood if he wasn't white.
I know, but why is he preying on only black people? Like why?
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that? It's a good question.
What is that? Because that, to me, like, if you're going to bring a vampire into a story, that vampire is hungry. He's hungry for anybody and anybody he can get his mouth on. Like, blood is blood. It tastes the same. Well, according to Vampire Diaries, it doesn't. But anyway, it's just like that, to me, that, like, when we talk about, like, books having magic and the rules don't make sense because there are no rules, that I had a problem with that, because when you look at the characters, it's like, why is he only preying on them? Why are they the only ones going missing?
Exactly.
And why is it, like, a sexual experience for white women and it's not that for the others? You know what I mean?
Okay, so yeah, then that was my second problem. There's some racial inequities in here. This is the South. I don't care if it is 1993. It's still the South. The South is still segregated to this day. And the vampire preys on poor black children. And black children go missing and they're exploited all the time, and it does not get as much attention as white children. This is something, this is a point. This is a theme in the book that he is not doing anything with. That theme alone could write hundreds of books, tons of documentaries about how exploited and abused and missing black children do not get nearly as much coverage or attention as white children. Like you said, he does nothing with it. It could have been poor white children, and it wouldn't have mattered because he didn't do anything with the topic. And once again, it's just for shock. He's not touching on a theme or anything. It's offensive.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Yeah. Because there's even a part in the book too, her friend Kitty is like, I didn't see it on the news. And, Miss Green goes, well, that's because us black people are not, featured on the news, and that's where you're from.
And that's the extent of it. That's
and it's like, okay.
And what?
No, and then there's some other, like, innuendos that she says, like, about, like, was it drugs? It's like, you could say that about anybody. Anybody. Why does it have to be just with that? Like, that part, I was like, no.
Because once again, and this is why own voices are important. And I'm not saying that this book has to be written by a black person, But when you have stereotypical characters in your book, where there was a moment in the book where Patricia and her friends go to visit a woman that lives around predominantly black people, and they are calling her all kind of bitches, and they look like quote unquote thugs, and a white person is writing it, it comes across as a stereotype, especially
Yes.
if you are not a historian or a professor or something that has anything to do with African American history. If you're just a white man out here writing books because, oh, that's how they talk on The Wire or whatever, like, no, it comes across as offensive. And it was offensive.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times, and that was one of them, where he had an opportunity to say something evocative about it. Nope. They kept mentioning in Patricia's neighborhood where, oh, the police come in 3 minutes or less. She goes to the black neighborhood. It takes them a long time. Why? Do we have anything to say about that? No, because we are not black and we don't know anything about that. There was another instance where he could have said or done something or said something about it.
With her child being taken from her.
Yeah.
The children being taken from her. Yes. Yeah. And I was like, no, these are big problems that are still prevalent in our society today. You can't just drop it like that and not have any sort of context, storyline with it. You can't just leave these $1 million problems hanging at the feet of us here. Like, it doesn't work. And honestly, it's distasteful. It's distasteful in a way. It's like, I don't want to read anything else by this dude. Like,
it's called systematic racism. It's a problem. Yeah. And you're not doing anything with it. So it comes across as you being a white person writing about black issues to sell books.
What was your other dislike? I feel like you and I have very similar ones this time.
Oh, we do. I'm shocked, actually. I didn't. Yeah. All right. So, did you listen to it or did you read it?
I listened to it.
Okay. The narrator is a black woman. Why? Mm-hmm. Why was the narrator? And so the first part of the book, I'm thinking, oh, this is about a black family, and I'm like, no, this is not about a black family. I was so confused. I don't understand why. And ordinarily, it shouldn't matter. But when you are dealing with race relations, the cast of characters have to be the race that they are. Otherwise, the listener is going to be confused.
100%. I couldn't agree more because I was so confused when Mrs. Green was like, well, he's taking all the black children. I was like, wait, aren't they? What? And then I had to, like, read back and I was like, oh. Like, oh, I thought we were just dealing with, like, a impoverished community.
I think
this is what happens when you grow up in a community where I was literally the only white family for 5-6 blocks. So to me, I was like, you chose a narrator to be a black woman? I'm going to assume everyone is the same.
Yeah. I was like, ooh, we're in the 90s and we got a black woman where her husband is a doctor and her kids suck. I was like, that sounds odd, but okay. No. And then Mrs. Green said, colored folks. I was like, I'm sorry, is this the 50s?
I know.
Listen, I was in high school in 1993, and maybe because I live in the North, I don't know, but black people do not refer to themselves as colored in 1993.
And not in the North.
Well,
Nope. Yeah. So I had a problem with that as well. I also didn't understand, why is there only one vampire? Where's the other one?
Other one. I know.
Are there more? Because if he's like, there's a part in the book where there is an act done that you assume that that's how more are made. And you're like, so where are the rest of them? I guess it's like a territorial thing, like a T-Rex. Like, we can't have 2 T-Rexes, like, in the same country. Like, the same state, county, I don't know. Like,
maybe he was a special breed and he was the only one. I didn't even notice that, but that's a good question. I don't know.
Why is he the only one? What? Where'd he come from? Where'd he come from? All things. All things we don't have answers to. I'm such a detailed person, so I was like, hold up. Where's Homeboy's backstory?
And you like vampire fiction, so I know you were like, hello, this isn't lore, hello. And I'm okay with you changing the lore, but you still gotta.
There's laws.
Yeah.
There's laws. You have to have laws in order for it to make sense.
All right, let's play a little game. And this game is called Was it intentional or is it bad writing? You decide.
Ooh.
Okay,
Ooh.
This book is set in 1993, yet it sounds like it's 1953. Was that intentional or bad writing? What do you think?
I think it's bad writing.
I think it's bad writing. At first, I was like, ooh, we are making some comparisons between the 50s and the 90s. And then I was like, I don't think that's
borderline bad writing.
The entire time, I am picturing this woman like Mad Men, with her hair and her dress. Like, that's how I'm picturing her. No, she should have been in freaking oversized t-shirts and stirrup pants and whatever else we wore in the 90s.
She's in like easy dress, like loose cotton, you know, her hair is all done up with her pearls, like.
But that wasn't what I was picturing. I was, that's what, yes, I'm saying, yeah. That's what I was picturing, like Leave It to Beaver. I was not picturing someone from the 90s. Like I said, I was in high school in the 90s, folks. I know how people dressed. I know how they looked. And I was just, and how we spoke and the culture, and there were no references to 90s. Even her daughter. I would have been the same age as her daughter. There was nothing 90s about that girl at all. So that's why I'm like, is this intentional or is this just bad writing? I'm going to go with bad writing. Okay, here's the second one. Was Patricia supposed to be an unreliable narrator or was it bad writing?
See, I know reliable. I saw her as someone that has been told that she doesn't know the answer to things.
Okay.
Because then she would have moments where she's like, I just don't feel that that's right. But now I'm scared to say yes. Is it doing it everybody else does? I would say it's bad writing. If she's supposed to be unreliable,
all right. Let me see. I think I have one more. Oh, okay. Hopefully I can get this in on time. At the end of the book, it says, some rich white people lost their homes and some black people, no, redo that. Some rich white people lost some money and some black people lost their homes. And it was said so matter-of-factly, like those two things are equal. And I'm like, there was no commentary after the fact about how, once again, systematic racism or anything racial inequality. No, it was just, some rich white people lost some money, black people lost their houses, whatever. That's kind of how it was read. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to glean from this. I'm offended. I know that.
Like, literally, I was reading it, and I was like, I'm so offended for you, for everybody. That is,
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm black, by the way, if you didn't notice. Sorry.
Yeah, but I was, like, super offended, because I was like, again, this is the 21st century. This is the 21st century. No, you cannot be saying stuff like that, because that is just inappropriate at this point in time, and it's racist. It is, in fact, racist. You cannot say that. No.
Ashley's like, no. I do have another one, but we'll save that for the spoiler edition. But that's. Oh, we didn't even get to likes. I only had one like, in that I did like the gore. I thought it was quite vivid, but that's it. That's one thing I liked about it.
The one thing that I liked about, I had two.
Okay.
I had two. I was glad that each of the characters, each of the women, there was some sort of development with them. Thank you. Thank you for at least giving us like a little bit into their lives, and we've got somewhere. Thank you. Secondarily, I loved how they killed the vampire. Loved it. I was all about that. Maybe I shouldn't say that. That's spoiler.
No, I feel like that it's not. There's no book 2, so I think that's fine.
I liked that part. I was all for it. But in my car, I was like, that's very gory, and it was a super fast read. I was like, how am I still listening to this book? Well, so that was our non-spoiler review of the Southerners Book Guide to Slaying Vampires. Our next book is going to be The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. So if you're listening to this, please read along with us. So then that way you can hear what we have to say about this book. That's going to be our next one. And if you are sticking around, we are going to spoil the book in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Claire. We're the hosts of Fictional Hangover Podcast.
Fictional Hangover is a podcast about young adult and new adult books, series, authors, and voice actors that is full of spoilers.
New episodes are released every Wednesday. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on fictionalhangover.com.
Remember, the only cure for a fictional hangover is another book. Now, back to the episode.
All right.
Done.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the moment where I guess like Patricia is now aware that there's like vampires that are like infecting people, if you will.
Which
You wanna talk about that?
moment? Was that the one she got her ear bit off, or the one where she sees him in the woods?
We can talk about the ear biting off thing. Because I'm like, first of all, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal, and I felt like it got written off as like, oh, people just crazy.
No.
You're in, excuse me? Like, that is someone who is either struggling with schizophrenia, has dementia, and is psychotic, like, oh, like sick. Or they've been bitten by a vampire. What a big deal.
Oh, God.
It's a big deal. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, you know, sicknesses where you're, like, out of your mind because you don't have control over your body. Like, this woman flat out attacked her in the driveway.
Well, first of all,
It's
she's
gross.
like eating raccoons and like snarling, and she's just like, "Excuse me,
Yeah.
Miss Chi Chonchi, are you okay? Do you need help?" I'm like, she is eating a raccoon. Go in your house. What is wrong with you? I know.
So stupid. It was so stupid. Like, I'm sorry. You don't ask if she's okay when she's eating a coon out of a bag. No, it's not a thing. Oh, man. And then they were like, oh, can we see your bandage? It's so cool. And she's like, half my ear's gone. Like, she did a chunk out of my ear. What? And then she just dies in the hospital? Excuse me?
There's
All
a
the
lot.
questions.
There's a lot of those moments where people are just like, let's talk about the sexual assault scene with her friend. I'm sorry. Are we just gonna we're just gonna pretend like that's not a hugely traumatic event, or she was assaulted sexually by a vampire and had his baby essentially? Like, I don't.
Oh, no, they killed her. I think they killed, like, she chose to be, like, killed.
Okay, so the baby didn't. I don't remember. But I don't like a book. It
No,
just I don't.
She said, I don't want to birth that.
Okay.
Like, I don't, like, you know.
But anyway, she's just in the tub like, hey, sex, and then have AIDS. What? Now we're bringing AIDS into this? I mean, if it didn't, if I was over it at any point, like, that was really just way over. And it was just because of the sheer, just like, blase-ness about it.
No, there was no emotion for any, like, women's regard with that. Like, that was a disgusting, horrific thing that happened to her. She don't just clean her up and let her be okay. No.
No.
No, no. No.
I mean, it's bad enough if it's a human man, but now we have a vampire that has some kind of, like, I don't even know what the penis was. It was something like, and then there's like gross bile coming out of her, like
gross discharge coming out of her, like blue black gross alien nasty chunks of stuff. Like, that's so gross.
Yeah. And she just cleaned her up, and she's like, "Oh, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye."
No, I had a problem with, like, that. That for me, I was like, I can't like this book in any capacity. Like, I think I might just need to keep my rating at a 2 then, because it's like that. I have such a hard time with that because there was other moments where it's like this stuff's being done to her daughter as well. He's sexually assaulting her daughter. And here's something else that I wanted to point out, because when he was attacking a little girl that they find him, she finds him in a van with the African American girl that's been missing, right? And so she's got her shirt pulled up, but she's still clothed, if you will. And it's like, then you go to where he is now doing this to her daughter, and they're both nude. They're both nude. And I was like, that's first of all, that's disturbing. And I don't understand why there is a sexual orientation with the feeding, if you will.
I know why.
And it's on the inside of, like, their thigh, and it's like this gross cockroach looking thing that comes out of his mouth. Like,
I know why. It's because it's written by a man. It's written by a man. That's why. There's all your answers. That's the answer to everything.
Because that, to me, just... Oh.
So the daughter is sexually assaulted, and then she just gets sent to a home, and then she comes home and buries the dog. And we don't talk about it or nothing. We have no emotion. That's the problem. You are introducing some very, very triggering, important themes here, and you're just like, next chapter. Next chapter.
Yep. So, there were a lot of moments like that, and then when even, like, we get to this part where, like, the women finally understand that, like, the men are not going to help them. Patricia now is aware that, like, her husband has been cheating on her. The other guys are all off doing whatever. They're all, like, under his influence, which to me, like, in vampirism, like, that makes sense. Like, they're all kind of, like, under his spell, that he can't do anything wrong, or they always are going to him for advice. And, like, I have all these red flags going, like, you don't send your children to a grown man's home by themselves. You don't do that. That's not okay. He's not a family member. You haven't known him that long, and now all of a sudden he came across all this money. No. And then she knows that he is, like, sexually assaulting her daughter, and then she willingly goes as a pawn for herself. And she's like, yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's the best I've ever felt in my life. But I'm not mad about it. Because I helped, like, stop him from taking other people. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you come back from that? Can you?
No.
Can you come back from that? I don't know. Because then I want to talk about, like, how... Okay. Here's the other thing do you want to say anything about that before I move on?
Nope.
So when James Harris, right, that's his name, James Harris, when he comes to town, you know, Patricia decides that she's going to be the good, hospitable neighbor and go over there with some casserole. I'm like, okay, good for you. Like, that's what people did. You went over, you made amends, whatnot. This girl walked into his house. She walked into the house like she was invited. And then instead of stopping at the door, noticing that no one's there, she goes to the bedroom and sees him laying on bed. And she's like, oh, let me pull out my nurse instincts and give him some, CPR. What? You don't just let yourself into your neighbor's house?
Maybe they do. I don't know. Not in my neighborhood, but I don't know.
No, not mine. Nope. And then here's the other thing that I just wanted to be like, are you just not like so like almost like a privileged bubble? I'm gonna say that there's like a privileged bubble around Patricia because she does not see error or caution in any regard until it's too late, because she does not know that not everybody's nice. Like you can't do that. Like he comes and he says like, oh, I found 85 grand in my aunt's house or grandma's house, whoever he was trying. I don't even remember if it was an aunt, grandma, an aunt, whatever. And she's like, that's cool. I'll take it to the bank. And then she's like, I'll co-sign for you. He's got no driver's license. His story isn't lining up. And you just helped this man, vampire, open a bank account.
And you forgot one important thing. She reads true crime. Anybody who reads true crime does not do that because they're paranoid about everything. I like true crime. If somebody knocks on my door without calling, oh, they coming to kill me, I don't answer the door. If you don't call first, I don't answer the door because I watch true crime. I'm not about to go co-sign an $85,000 loan for you.
This is what I'm saying. These women have been reading true crime books for over a year. Like, how are you that dull to not see these red flags? Okay? He's got a dinky van, pulls into town, looks like he's half dead when you find him, okay? And he's got all this money. And then it's, oh, I see that you have dessert. Can I come over for dessert? No, you may not. You may not enter into my house. No. And then we have to just let him in every time to be hospitable? No. That makes me so angry. So angry.
There was a lot of illogical stuff, and once again, it's because it's written by a man. I have never been suicidal, but I just feel like, once again, she tries to kill herself, and it's just like, oh, whoopsies, I tried to kill myself, didn't mean to. Next chapter. Her friend gets her ass beat by her husband because she didn't vacuum the drapes. Oh, whoopsie, my best friend's getting her ass beat. Next chapter. There's no discord or nothing.
Yeah. There's no, like, the only time I see, like, said empowerment that's, like, silently said between them is when they finally are, like, with Miss Green, who's like, I don't care what you're doing. I'm stopping it right now. This has got to stop. I've tried to warn you. I can't do this by myself, but you know what? I'm going to get myself killed trying to protect everybody else because I don't want this happening no more. Mm-hmm. And I was like, thank you. Finally, someone with the backbone to get these women and their crap under control. And then when they're even there, performing the whole, like, you know, what do you want to call it? Like, sawing of limbs?
Yeah. Sawing of limbs.
You know, it's like this, like, each and every one of them are having these, like, mental breakdowns, like, having to, like, figure this out. And then Ms. Grace, is it Grace that comes through? She's the one who's getting beat by her husband, I think. And she's like, okay, whatever you need, like I'm here, like let's go, like let's just do it, but it still takes her a hot minute,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and even like, and then they have, and then there's like the whole scene with like her mother-in-law and Miss Green, and like how her mother-in-law gets attacked by the rats.
That
And
chapter
I was
went
like,
on way too long. That was way too long. I couldn't read that. I don't like rats. I couldn't read that.
I literally was like, oh my, oh, no, because I was listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, and it's like, he did do one thing though with dementia thing. For people, when they have dementia, like they'll say all kinds of things and then all have a moment of clarity, and they like know that they know for sure that like that is what they say it is, type of thing. And I'm like, they had just written this woman off for so long. Mr. Campbell just basically wrote off his mom and let his wife take care of her and figure out, and she's like, this is not my mom. Like, I shouldn't be taking care of your mother. Like, you should be taking care of your mother.
Well, I thought of that a little differently. Like, yes, he did write her off to the mom,
Right.
But to his wife, but he didn't put his mother in a home, and he was the only child that would take her in, and it was because he loved his mother, and she sacrificed a lot to get him through medical school, and she was, she worked so hard, and he loved his mother. Essentially, he did love his mother. He treated her, he took her in and everything. However, he treats his wife like shit. So you do all of this, you revere your mother, but you treat your wife like shit. Like, hello, you're a man. Can you say something about that? Or,
I know.
Once again, say something from a man's point of view. Why do men do that?
Yeah. There was no explanation, even when they had like their confrontation where the women all confronted their husbands and were like, listen, like, we need you to listen to us. Here are some fears that we have. I'm sorry, if 5 women, your wives, are coming to you as a group and saying, listen, there's something not right here, wouldn't you call the police, not tell them don't come? Wouldn't you, like, there was no respect towards their women, towards their wives. There was no respect in any capacity. Well, the lady, she had to lie to her husband and say she's going to Bible study.
Well, that's the pandering part of the book. That's the pandering part of the book. He's like, let me write these strong women who have really bad husbands who aren't going to help them at all, and they have to help themselves. Once again, I don't need a man to tell me that. I don't need you to tell me that.
No. Yeah. So I was all excited for this book because I was like, maybe it's going to be like a better vampire retelling. And it was a hot disaster. Now, mind you, could not put the book down because the first like 30-40% of the book, I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Who is this person? What's going on? Like basically up to the rat part, I was like, I'm here for it. Right? Like, I'm here for what's happening. And then when the rat part hit, I was like, okay, hold on. Nope. Like, all of the things.
It lost me way before the rat part, but yeah, I would say the first 30 pages, I was into it. And honestly, I didn't realize it was written by a man. Because there was a point in the book where I was like, who wrote this book? Was this a black woman? And then I was like, oh, hell no. When I realized it was written by a man, that was when I was like, no. Nope.
Yeah. I would definitely say that this book has way more hype than what it actually is. Like, if you read, here's my opinion. If you read a book and you read one to like dissect it, figure out the themes and all this other stuff, like, this is not is not done well. It's not done well. Like there's big holes. And then there's, on top of it, there's also some misogynistic and feminist problems and racist problems that are in this book. It's like, you can't just leave that out in the open. You can't. Like, it's distasteful.
It is.
Like, it makes me not want to read anything by him ever again.
Oh, I would never.
Ever.
No.
Ever. And the only reason why I gave it the rating that I did is because it was a very fast-paced book. I was there for the vampire thing. And then it's like, but when you go through the rest of it, it's like, I literally thought to myself, who can I recommend this book to?
Nobody.
That's how I rate my books sometimes.
Nobody.
Is I go, who can I recommend? And I was like, I would never tell someone I was reading this book. Or that I read it. That's just because I'm like, I wasn't okay with the stuff that happened.
Yeah,
So.
the thematic writing was mediocre at best. I don't care who wrote it. I don't care if a woman wrote it. I don't care if a black woman wrote it. The thematic writing was mediocre because, once again, we're not contributing anything new to the theme. So that's bad. And because, once again, because it's written by a man, that makes it even worse. I don't care
At least,
who was written by.
It's
mediocre.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, what's his name that we really like?
Oh.
Reynolds. What's his first name?
Jason Reynolds?
Jason Reynolds. He writes great books.
What? He does not write horror.
Like,
why
trying
did
to
you
think
go
of, like,
there?
a better man author.
Oh, okay. He
I'm
writes
just saying,
children's books.
he writes good books. He wrote a teen book, too.
Yeah, he did. I don't think I read a lot of books by men. Besides, like, Christoph, I think he's probably the one that I have read the most books by.
But even
Oh,
then,
man.
Jay Kristoff will at least explain himself. Like, there's a reasoning behind, like, the innuendo. It's not just assumed. Like, there's a well thought out answer to why that is. You can't just lay it down. You can't.
And he always, well, with the exception of this last book, he always writes from the POV of a young girl.
Right.
And I've never found it to be pandering or...
No.
And it's usually not feminine issues. It's usually not, oh, you can't do that because you're a girl. It's usually a revenge story. And it's not because she's a woman. It's just because she's... I don't know. But it usually doesn't... I never feel like it's because she can't do it because she's a girl. And I'm thinking of Mia from,
Nevernight.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you.
He is a problematic author too, but it's not because of feminism. It's because of race. I think he borrows stuff from Asian culture, East Asian culture, and they do not like that. So he's a bit problematic too. So I'm not saying that he's without, issues.
I guess I would just say with this book, just use discretion. There's a lot of triggering things in this book. And if any of those that we talked about, even in a non-spoiler, if those are, big, big things for you, I would just stay away.
I'm texting Alyssa
Yes.
in the group chat, and I'm like, Alyssa, Ashley and I just reviewed that damn vampire book you recommended, and we hated
We want to know why you gave it like you did.
And we want to know why you liked it so much. All right, I'm putting that in the group chat. I don't know if she's on right now, but
Calling her out on our live podcast right now.
hope
We're
you're
all for good
listening.
book recs, though, guys. I wouldn't have picked this book up though if not for like the recommendation. And it's like sometimes we get like good book recs, and it's like it was okay, it was good, or whatever. So again, join us for The Bone Shard Daughter next time by Andrea Stewart. This has been on my TBR for like a few years actually. And I love it because there's like a little like forward from my favorite author, Moss. So yes, she liked it. I'm all for it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.